now, good news. Nick Ferrari and Ashley James are here to discuss the stories making the headlines today. And, well, we need to go straight into the big one. Jeremy Hunt, through all the heckling, did manage to deliver a budget last night, didn't he? Can you talk us through the main points, Nick, that he managed to make?
Of course. He had a challenge, and I've just been given a challenge by Ashley. Can I give the budget in 2 sentences? So here we go.
Right.
A package of measures, including cuts and national insurance, that should save the average person between £450 and £900 per annum, and also cigarettes up to £16 a packet, tax to be put on vaping, but petrol prices are held, and so is alcohol. That's basically summing up. If you want an interpretation of it...
What about child benefits?
Child benefit is a big one. We'll talk about child benefit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about childcare. Hopefully there's 60,000 families able to access childcare. The ceiling put up to £60,000 from £50,000, more provision. Although it has to be said, they've had a lot of hurdles getting to where it is now. So this is pretty ambitious. They haven't actually delivered on what they promised in the last autumn statement. So they're now saying it's going even further. As people were saying on my show today, well, they haven't got to where they promised them in the autumn. Overall, it's one of those classic, I would suggest, budgets in that what they give with one hand, they take away with another, because people are still faced with rising energy bills and other costs. So I don't think many people will be dancing in the streets.
What it wasn't was a dramatic budget, Ashley. We're talking about perhaps an election in May, and they'd make big statements in this budget as we head towards that. It was kind of a bit of a meh budget, wasn't it?
I'm very hopeful for an election in May, and, yeah, I think the budget is very, very underwhelming. It's not going to fix broken Britain, and I think only an election can do that. I do welcome the Chancellor's intervention on childcare. However, it still doesn't touch the sides of the childcare crisis, because at the moment the childcare system is not working for parents, it's not working for kids, it's not working for the economy, and crucially it's not working for childcare providers. So, you know, I think while it is good, I just really urge them to look at the campaigning done by Pregnant Then Screwed, which shows that actually this is really bad for the economy not to look at the childcare crisis, because 54,000 women every year are having to leave their job. People who want to work are being forced out of the workplace. So, yeah, I mean, it's not enough, but I think I probably would never be happy with a Conservative budget. But I think even Conservatives are not going to be happy with the Conservative budget.
Something that did spark my concern was he was putting 230 million aside for police technology to put into drones. Can you talk us through that, Ash?
Well, I think what would have been helpful would have been if they hadn't cut the police corps, force down, obviously during the years of austerity. And it does seem a bit alarming, doesn't it, that an emergency happens, they can't get police there in time, so they send a drone.
Yeah. You would rather see a human.
I mean, yeah, I'd like to
street.
think if I was being burgled or
Yeah.
there is a car crash, I'm not going to ring 999 and a drone turns up and I bet, thank God, I feel so safe.
But there's a broader point here, isn't there? Because we should be trying to get people in employment. And, OK, I know a drone needs an operator, but surely it is better to employ police, if you've got the money, to employ police officers, because that puts men and women in work who will then pay tax, who will then fuel the economy, and people feel safer if there are police officers walking up and down. Not in, exactly right, he says, I'm not going to feel that great about a drone flying overhead. A police officer, or a couple of officers, men and women walking up the streets, is a totally different feeling. So you can question the wisdom of where some of the money's gone.
One thing that on something.
It's a very rare event. It's the only, yes, it's a rare moment.
You know it's a bad budget when Nick and I are agreeing.
One thing that makes a really bad budget are scripted gags in budgets. They just irritate me. It's not the place for it. You know, deliver the message, get out of Dodge, let people deal with it. Jeremy Hunt, a bit of fat shaming, perhaps, do you think, with Sir Keir Starmer?
So
how do you read into that?
This all tracks back to a podcast, I think, that was done by Peter, now Lord Mandelson, who is, of course, one of the architects of New Labour. I think even you would accept that he helped really burnish New Labour. And he was suggesting a couple of days ago that Sir Keir is carrying a bit too much baggage. He needs a bit too much timber. He needs to lose a bit of weight. So Jeremy Hunt picked up on that in his budget. He also had to go at a couple of other of his own Conservative MPs. As you rightly say, you wouldn't expect Michael McIntyre to present the budget, so why we have Jeremy Hunt thinking he wants to do gags. So now we come to the big row of fat shaming. I am fat, and I get that. I don't have any problems whatsoever. I won't say I play up to it. I should exercise more. I should drink less, but I don't. So if people want to have a go, like I care. But apparently it's the new sensitivity and we all have to lie down and have a group hug.
It's about they're there to do a job. The country's in crisis. I think it's really unhelpful because what leaders, the words that leaders use set the tone for what other people can
Nonsense.
say. It's true, because it's like
Your
if you hear
children...
your parents or your boss or if anyone is...
You want me to follow my boss? You are children
But also,
do
they're
not
there to
watch
talk
MPs.
about the budget, and this is where MPs get it wrong, and I don't care what political party you're from. They really misunderstand that people are desperate. We are in a cost of living crisis. Bills are going up. They want to feel reassurance.
That's what he talked about for the majority.
But
he has one
it's
line...
also just a bad joke, by the way.
Oh, that's a different conversation.
It's in poor taste, and I think I don't care what weight...
Why is it in poor taste?
I don't care about the weight of leaders. I care about...
Yeah, let's remind everybody of the little fat shaming.
I know he's been taking advice from Lord Mandelson, who yesterday rather uncharitably said he needed to shed a few pounds. Ordinary families will shed more than a few pounds if that lot get in. If he wants to join me on my marathon training, he's most welcome as well.
It's funny as well for me.
He's laughing. Sakir, the recipient of the gag, is laughing. The man has just done a 17-mile run, the Chancellor, with his poor Labrador. It's the dog I feel sorry for. 17 miles. It's a joke.
I think the issue is the Tories have nothing left because they are the people responsible for running this country to the ground. So all they can do is still make these really old-fashioned digs about if Labour get in, just look what's going to happen to your taxes.
But the man himself laughs.
Our taxes are the highest they've ever been, so how can the Conservatives... It's just a poor joke
Actually,
because it doesn't even make sense.
Have you ever sat in that chamber and sat through a budget or speech? They are incredibly boring, mostly monotone voices. Anything that lightens the mood, anything is seized upon.
Well, then he should tell a better joke.
Well, no, that's a different debate.
I agree. Better gags.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah, well, if you're going to write gags, write good ones.
Well, yeah, but OK. Well, he'd say he's concentrating on writing the budget. You can't write the gags as well.
I just think that when you're picking at someone's weight, you have no idea... like the reason behind it. But it's a bad gag. I don't think we need to look at people...
They were in a workplace.
Yeah.
Right, our next story...
I find you cuddly, Nick, by the
Thank
way,
you
just
very
for the
much
record.
indeed. I don't mind.
Our next story, Boots
Yes.
ordered staff
Quite right
back into the office. Apparently 4-day weeks are not working. They want them to go back for 5-day weeks.
It's interesting, isn't it, that they've just trialled 4-day weeks and found that people were more productive. And there's lots of research to show around the world that people who have flexible working are more productive. And again, I urge Boots to look at Anna Whitehouse's brilliant campaigning, the Flex Appeal. Like, anyone should look at it. But the problem with this is flexible working is a lifeline for people, for parents.
Yes.
This is not just a women issue, for parents, for people who are caring. Because the problem is people have big commutes, which is a waste of time. And
Well, move nearer then. Just move nearer to the office.
Well, that's quite hard.
How can people do that when they can't afford to live where their office
loads
is?
of people commute. I mean, hold on a second. This is Boots, right? So the young woman working behind the pharmacy and the young man who's going to be at the counter, they're not allowed to work from home. Obviously they can't because they need to be... Why should that be afforded to the office staff?
Because it's been proven that it is beneficial for companies and it also saves the money.
Well, that poor
because
guy
if they're
can't
doing
have working in the
flexible
branch in London, he can't, or Manchester.
You can always argue this. Of course, there will be roles where flexible working isn't possible, but lots of people need flexible working, and it doesn't mean that they're lazy. And actually, 72% of businesses reported increased productivity as a result of flexible working. And let me say this, at the moment, if you have children...
Just statistics.
Because it's important, because I think if people looked at statistics, they might move forward in a more progressive way. But if you look at the cost of childcare...
75% of people disagree.
And if you look at the cost of childcare, Nick, let's say a full-time nursery is £2,300 a month where I live.
Right.
But it also doesn't cover the time of getting to and from work, and you get charged if you go over, because most nurseries would be, let's say, 8 until 6.
We'll be discussing this more, Ash, because you've got a two-way phone in for this, haven't you, later on,
yes, I have.
Nick,
yes.
about a 4-day work.
Yes, I have. I've just been told and I'm looking forward to it. What am I talking